So good morning and welcome to another edition of Motivation Monday. If you want to be happy, set a goal that commands your thoughts, liberates your energy, and inspires your hopes. That was Andrew Carnegie, the founder of US Steel. Okay, so today's agenda, we'll be having our tip of the week, some sales shout outs, see who's been selling what. And then we'll have just a quick little talk on goal setting. So for our tip of the week, we're going to talk about NatGen's accident and health. And this was effective as of the 18th of January. No longer able to do 90 days out. So the 90 days got shortened to 45 days. So if you need to quote, beyond 90 days, you're going to have to quote at 45 and give them the caveat that it will be updated as you get nearer to the time, because I think just trying to eliminate a little bit of that risk. So NatGen shortened that up a little bit to, actually they cut it in half. It's that from 90 days to 45. Right, a few shout outs here. It looks like for this last week, almost everything, with the exception of dental, were NatGen policies, the short term, the limited medical, accident, critical illness, were all from NatGen, and the dental was led by United Healthcare. So some shout outs would go to Bill Cox, Katia Santa Maria, and Robert Malminger for their short-term sales. A lot of single was out there, but Katia Unlimited Medical, I think she did quite a few, put out about 5 of those last week. And when it comes to accident, our big leader there was Bill Cox, followed by Kimberly and Brad. So just to look at some things, I call it kind of, how to, manage your business, our goal setting, just kind of looking ahead at just what do we expect our businesses to do for us. And so we're going to talk a little bit about goal setting, because we all need to have goals. And we do need to take out a pen and paper and actually write those bad boys down, because you want to be able to refer back to them and look at them and see if you're really, making any progress. Now, to be a good proper goal, there are some rules. Now, I would tell you that there have been so many books written on goal setting and how to go about doing it. But what you're going to find is, I think this set of bullets here really kind of sums up, most of the what they would tell you need to be doing in there. Okay, and that's just saying that you got to be specific. It can't be something vague. You got to be pretty, specific with what you want your goal to be. You need to be able to have a method of measuring your progress towards the goal. Now, the goal itself should be challenging while remaining realistic. In other words, you don't want pie in the sky goals that you can't, that are just not possible to achieve, because then it becomes a pejorative. In other words, it just becomes negative trying to get to it. You want it to be something that is realistic and truly achievable. You need to set some priorities along the way, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, along with measurable, these measures need to be tracked, because how else are you going to know if you're making progress towards your goal? Or do you need to assess those goals? Maybe even, set new goals. Another popular acronym that I've seen with goals is SMART. Now, this one's not actually the SMART one. that I was using, but the other one that I've seen, and it just means, specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time bound. So they're all, like I said, many books written on that, and so there's a lot of different ideas on exactly how to go about setting those goals. But if you use this one, or if you just use the SMART acronym, I think you'll find that they'll work. Either one would work really well for you. Now, I do want to differentiate a little bit between what I would call a dream and what's a goal. So we want to be careful not to just write down the dream that we have of our business, but try to lay out some goals. And along with that, we should have like some short-term goals, maybe a monthly goal, an annual goal, an overarching goal that kind of ties it all together. And you need to kind of get an understanding of the difference between a goal and a dream. Okay, a dream is usually without definition of the end picture. So I would say that if my goal was to simply say I want to have a successful business without defining, what is success, that's a dream. So if I wanted the goal, I would say the goal is like build and maintain an insurance business with a book of business containing, and I picked 1,000 customers for this. And you'll see how I had used that in the past. So here's an example of a goal. And what I would say is these were actually my goals from my last sales position, okay? And so we'll kind of see how these were mine. You could, come up with your own. And the way I would say the easiest way to put the plan together is actually to work backwards. You need to know what what's the desired end result, and then start working the numbers backward to see just what needs to be accomplished right down to the daily basis to accomplish your final goal. Now, this was mine. I was selling Medicare plans at that time. And I knew that with the goals that the company had set for me, I was working in a call center, and I had to meet goals set by them, so many applications, etc. And then it also went into how the compensation plan worked. So that's where some of these numbers came from. So I looked at how many sales days you had per month, and I knew what I wanted, because you could see that my goal was to hit that 1,000 customers at the end of to build the book of business to there. And I figured it was going to take a couple of years to get there. And as I started to work it all backwards, it came down to I needed to have 2 applications per day. And then that's just the extension of that is 10 applications per week. And there's typically 4 weeks in a month, so 40 applications for the month. During the open enrollment period, I wanted to see if I could do 200 applications during that 7-week period. And then in Medicare, they called the period outside of open enrollment the lock-in. So if you, again, extend out the 2 per day, you'll see where the 360 came from. Add it all together. My goal was to do about 560 applications per year. So as part of my commitment, we talked about in those goals of setting priorities. My goal was 2. Now, we all know how days go. Some days, it just doesn't matter what you do. Your mojo's not working. You're just not getting a hold of anybody. So part of my self-commitment is I would not stop until I had at least 1 sale. Now, in truth, I had less than 5 0 days for the year. Okay, I mean, there's just some days where you just reach that point where it just doesn't matter anymore. Okay? Now, part of where that 1,000 customers came from was based on the comp plan that I was working under. I received $2 for each month for each account in my book. And so I had, in addition to the other pays and bonuses I was receiving, I wanted to get $2,000 a month payout in addition to those commissions and bonuses. So that was the 1,000 customers meant that I would get $2 each or $2,000 per month. So I could start each month knowing that that paycheck for that month was going to at least be $2,000. So I kind of built a goal or my plan around my desired income at that time. So this was kind of the like I said, the annual business cycle. Renewal business, that was the national average of $2 per account, breaks down to $2 per month, so that 200 applications from OEP plus my other goals was going to get me to that 2,000. So anything new was going to be, according to the comp plan that I was operating under, and I always got additional opportunities to, sell dental and vision. For those who are not working in the Medicare area right now, I would really encourage that you take a look at that. It does pay pretty well. Yeah, just as a little side note, because I was always asked, these were my results right here. Okay, we're looking back a ways because I stopped selling and went into the training side in May of last year. So that meant that was in 2019. So in 2017, started my process there. I did 190 applications that open enrollment, followed by the monthly goals. Okay, you can see that in 2018, my goal is 40, but I'm within 10% here. I got 35, 36, 41, 39, a couple of 37s, big July, 47, August, 32, and September, I did take a vacation. I was gone for 2 weeks. So that was 2 weeks not selling. But then that's part of why I wanted that, 2,000 a month to kick in no matter what, right? As part of, my goal. And so for September, I only did about 18. In the 2018 open enrollment, I was able to knock out 219 that year. So that was pretty good. And so even though the overall goal was to do, a little bit more than that, right? I think if you added the total together, I was going to try to do about 560. I hit 512. Okay, I thought, if I had continued on, I would have had to reassess a few things here because I didn't quite reach the full 560, which was my goal there. I do know that in Medicare, there's a couple of problems with the retention in there, and that one, my customers are dying. Okay, they're all old, and you got to kind of look at, you're going to probably lose anywhere from 10 to 15% each year anyway. When you figure 25% are going to make a change every year. Okay, so, and I want to be the one that makes that change, but I was still able to retain pretty close between 85 and 90% of the customers. But I was still losing 50 to, I think, 77. Now, I went back and took a look at how many of those customers are still on the books. And that was like 821 of them are still there. So there's that drop off was a little bit closer to what, almost 20%. I would want to have taken a closer look at that, but it's probably mostly because when I changed position, I was no longer maintaining that book. I was no longer, at least talking to those customers once a quarter to see if they needed to make any changes or see anything that went with that, because part of my goal, in other words, of maintaining my goal, the process of getting there, I had a lot of contact with the customers that I had already sold to make sure that they stayed on the book. Okay. So that's kind of just an example of goal setting. And I showed you specifically the one that I had, put together and used for myself. I kept all of that on, literally right down on the, had one of those big old calendars on my desk, and I, kept track right there so that I knew at any one time. I mean, I had, days of, one sale and days of 3 and 4 sales. So I was really trying to, work that average to work out to be 2 a day. You saw, just from those stats, I didn't exactly make 2 a day every day, but uh, that was the goal, and that's what I worked toward. Uh, and that's why I was saying that, part of that was some discipline in there of how you were going to do that. So I did have that commitment, not to go home without at least one sale. And even that was a tough one. I said I'd say less than 5, 0 goose egg sales days for the year. Yeah. If anybody would had any more questions about those, you can always contact me. I'm at training@ahcpsales.com. I'd be glad to share other ideas that I had and in goal setting, and I'd be glad to help out if anybody had any questions on that. So I don't like to keep these little things too long. I just wanted to give everybody, some good information, some good shout outs, and something that I thought that hopefully would be useful to you. So with that, I'm going to let you all get back to work. And if you do have questions, just email me, training@ahcpsales.com. Have a great day.